You're listening to Chapter 3 of The Day the Evacuation Order Went Up, Aiko's 6 days before camp. This episode is part of Stories from Camp, a continuing series of Japanese-American narratives told as quiet, nighttime historical dramas for nighttime sleeping and learning. Listen to our other chapters and full-length stories on our YouTube and podcast channels. Now, to continue our story. Chapter 3. A Father's Quiet Shop. Aiko returned to the shop in late afternoon, the air warm and thick with the scent of fruit beginning to soften in the crates. Her father stood behind the counter with his sleeves rolled to the elbows, sorting oranges into careful rows. The rhythm of his movements steadied him, but Aiko recognized the subtle tension in his shoulders. He looked like a man trying to keep order in a world that had stopped listening. She set the baskets down and stepped behind the counter to help. The shop felt half familiar, half strange. The same wooden shelves lined the walls, the same rustle of paper bags moved through the air, yet an invisible layer of uncertainty coated everything. Even the sunlight looked different, slanting across the floor as if unsure where to land. A customer entered with a hesitant shuffle. Mrs. Yamamoto, who usually chatted long enough to slow the line, kept her voice quiet. She picked through the daikon without commenting on the quality, without asking about prices, without her usual warmth. When she handed Aiko the coins, her hand trembled slightly. Aiko thanked her, but the woman only nodded and left quickly, head lowered. Her father watched the door close, his jaw tightening. "People worry," he said softly. "They don't know what to do." Aiko nodded. She didn't tell him that worry felt too small a word for what she saw in the streets that morning. Fear, confusion, resignation, those were closer to the truth. But she kept the words to herself. Her father carried enough. Another customer entered, a white man in a pressed shirt who used to stop by once a week. He walked through the aisles without meeting their eyes. When he reached the counter, he asked for potatoes, speaking with a clipped tone, the kind people used when they wanted to appear polite without engaging. Aiko's father weighed the potatoes and handed them over gently, but the man kept his distance, as if the air around them carried danger. He paid in exact change and left without looking back. The silence he left behind felt louder than his footsteps. Her father set aside the crate he had been sorting. "We should decide what to do with the rest," he said. His voice stayed calm, but Aiko heard the strain beneath it. "Sell what we can. Maybe store a little." She glanced at the stacks of produce. The shop held more than food, it held years of effort, the quiet pride of an immigrant man who built something stable in a city that never guaranteed stability. Each crate represented early mornings, late nights, and the quiet persistence that shaped their family's life. "What if no one buys?" Aiko asked. Her father hesitated. The question hung between them. He lifted an apple, turned it in his hand, then placed it down with care. "We do our best," he said. "That's all." Throughout the afternoon, more customers came. Some bowed deeply before leaving, a gesture that felt like apology. Others kept their distance, their politeness thin. Aiko moved between transactions, aware of the subtle shift in the air, the way trust seemed to dissolve with each conversation. When a young couple came in, she watched them pick only what they could carry. They bought nothing more than the bare necessities, as if they feared excess might look suspicious. They thanked her father stiffly. The woman turned away quickly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. After they left, Aiko's father leaned against the counter. "People forget," he murmured. "We fed this neighborhood for 20 years. Aiko wanted to say something comforting, something steady. But comfort felt fragile, and steadiness felt too close to pretending. So she stepped beside him and placed a hand on the counter near his. Their fingers didn't touch, but the gesture bridged the distance. The bell above the door gave another gentle ring. More customers. More uneasy expressions. More quiet goodbyes disguised as errands. By sunset the crates looked lighter, but Aiko couldn't tell if it came from sales or from the slow dimming of the room around them. Her father wiped his hands on a cloth and gave her a tired smile, the kind of smile that carried years in its corners. "Thank you," he said. Aiko knew he didn't mean for the baskets or the sorting. He meant for standing beside him when the world shifted. For pretending they had control over what came next. For giving him someone to lean on without saying so aloud. She nodded once. Outside, the day drifted toward evening, and the neighborhood held its breath as if waiting for a storm that had already begun. Thank you for listening to Chapter 3 of the day. The evacuation notice went up. This episode is part of Stories from Camp, a continuing series of Japanese-American narratives told as quiet, nighttime historical dramas. If you like this narrative storytelling, please like, subscribe and listen to the next chapter or the whole story on our YouTube channel, or your podcast player if you'd like to hear more. You can explore the rest of the library on our channel. And if you're a storyteller or creator who wants to collaborate with us, you can reach out anytime at redressradio.com.